Good morning. It is time to get up with Zion. You know, the ping pong balls of life take interesting bounces. Last night, the ramifications for an entire sport were endless, including for the Knicks, who made the biggest mistake you could ever make and were not rewarded for it. It was a night that will change the NBA forever. We're all over it. And oh, by the way, Steph and Clay, unstoppable last night, leading us to ask a question that a week ago would have seemed impossible. We'll get to all of that in our first 20 minutes. It's time to get up right now. How was your night, everybody? Because that was one wild, crazy evening with Farnham and DJ and a cast of thousands ready to go all over the country. It was a night that we had been waiting for, and that it went exactly the way nobody could have imagined it coming. The New Orleans Pelicans, the shocking winners of the NBA's draft lottery, leading all the way up from 7th to 1st, earning the right to select Zion Williamson in next month's NBA draft. Both Zion and the new Pelicans boss David Griffin were with Maria Taylor.
I'm really excited for our fan base, and we got a lot of work to do, but this is a good start.
When I say Zion, you say what?
We have a lot of work to do. This is a good start.
All right, thank you for your time. When you saw New Orleans got the #1 pick, you didn't think for a second, oh, I could be a New Orleans?
It's definitely a possibility, but, I mean, it's not sure until it actually happens. And whatever that team needs me to do, I'm going to be able to do it.
So in case you didn't watch last night, here's how it all shook out. The Grizzlies got the second pick. They only had a 12% chance of picking in the top two. It was a wild night. The Knicks slotted in at 3. You see the rest of the order there. Lakers, Cavs on down the line through the draft lottery. So let us go to Chicago and start trying to figure all of this out. Our NBA insider extraordinaire is Adrian Wojnarowski. So Woj, you spoke to a lot of people last night, including David Griffin. What did he tell you about his plans now that he has the #1 pick?
He's been steadfast since he took the job in New Orleans, Greeny. He wants to convince Anthony Davis to stay with the Pelicans, and he got another chip last night to try and do that in Zion Williamson. But the one thing that David Griffin has tried to do with Anthony so far is not try to do a lot of talking, but to show him the kind of hires he's made, the kind of investments they're making in facilities, in the front office, in the organization, essentially saying that his model right now is Oklahoma City with Paul George, Toronto with Kawhi Leonard. The idea that, hey, I just got here, I helped build a championship team, give me a chance to do that with you, and to get Zion Williamson goes certainly a long way in trying to make that case. And you know, they'll continue to try to do that through this offseason. And, you know, at some point they may have to make a decision on moving him. But right now their mode in New Orleans is to keep Anthony Davis.
That's an incredibly important point coming out of last night. We went into the night thinking about Zion. We came out of it thinking about Anthony Davis. So, Woj, what are you hearing from AD's camp about his thinking here?
The sense that I got last night was that their stance was unchanged, that he still wanted to move on. Listen, no one's going to announce, hey, I've changed course, I want to stay. It's not going to happen that way. It may never happen with him. But David Griffin knows this. There was a time that Anthony Davis really loved being in New Orleans. He really wanted to make it work. And I think it's a marketplace he was very comfortable in. And he wants to try to recapture that and show him that this will be a different organization than the one he was a part of. Gail Benson, their owner, you know, is willing to make the investments that Griffin wants to upgrade the organization in lots of ways, and they have some time. And remember, he's still under contract for next season. If they wanted to take this to the February trade deadline, they could do that. But now you see New York, you see LA with the 3rd and 4th picks in this draft, and that certainly helps New Orleans if they want to move him to be able to get back a better package than maybe they could have 2 days ago, and maybe really jumpstart their rebuild in a post-Anthony Davis era with Zion Williamson and then whatever else would come in a trade.
Right, so there's no question. The Pelicans were huge winners last night getting that first pick. What is the reaction around the league to the fact that you could argue the biggest losers were the Knicks, the Cavaliers, and the Suns, who had the 3 worst records and wound up 3rd, 5th, and 6th in the draft?
Yeah, Greeny, I think a lot of people were underestimating the impact that the new draft lottery reform was going to have. This is what the NBA wanted. This is why they changed the rule. They want to deter tanking. They want teams chasing wins and not ping pong balls. And last night was example one for the NBA that there may not be much of an advantage at all to try to continue that race to the bottom to get a high pick. This is the kind of action the league wanted to keep teams from just shutting it down late in seasons, and to have 3 teams jump up into the top of the lottery. We've never had more than one do it. This is what a draft lottery will look like in the future because of the way they flattened the odds out.
That's really well done, Woj. Thank you so much, and we'll continue to lean on you as we go forward here. We'll talk about the ramifications for tanking as we continue as well. New Orleans' expected draft position was 7th. They had just a 6% chance of picking number 1. That's a perfect illustration of what Woj is talking about. Meanwhile, take a look at Alvin Gentry. He's the head coach there in New Orleans. He was in the NBA draft lottery room last night. Look at his reaction when they won.
New Orleans.
Congratulations to New Orleans for winning the first pick in the 2019 NBA lottery.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we can't tell you what it was he said there, but you can probably guess. So let's, for the first time this morning, bring it out to the table again. Farnham and DJ. And DJ, you know David Griffin well. What can you tell us about what you think his reaction was?
Well, David Griffin is a guy that works extremely hard and never sleeps. But I tell you, last night he slept at least 16 hours because right now he is at the top of the NBA food chain. Because if he cannot convince Anthony Davis to stay, he has teams right behind him at 3 and at 4 that will give up major assets to get Anthony Davis out of New Orleans.
It is remarkable that this was a night that began all about Zion, Sean, and it ended up all about Anthony Davis. What do you think happens there?
Well, look, I think if you're the Pelicans, you hold all the cards, as you were just talking about. David Griffin can sit back and say, okay, now here's my sales pitch. We have Drew Holiday. We're investing in some other areas. So we've got a point guard. We've got you. Now we bring in Zion Williamson. We're in a good spot. But if Anthony Davis still doesn't want to go, you're in a better spot than what you were. Everybody that was critical of not moving Anthony Davis during the course of the regular season, this is why you didn't move Anthony Davis during the course of the regular season, because now you have to look at the Knicks at 3. So maybe they were supposed to be at 1, but now they're at 3. Yeah. And the Lakers, instead of being at 11, you now know that they're at 4. And while 4 may not be 3 in this year's NBA draft, it's a lot better than 11 with the collection of talent that is already on the Lakers roster that you could potentially move AD to.
That's an important point here, is that the 2 teams that we think are in it for Anthony Davis both got good picks last night. Not the number 1 pick, but got good picks. And the Celtics may have fallen hopelessly out of this, right? That's the other headline coming out of this. All this talk about AD to Boston, maybe that's over now.
Oh, I think that's a moot point at this particular time. I see the New York Knicks being in prime position to get Anthony Davis, because that 3rd pick, if you're David Griffin, right, Zion Williamson last year had a great partnership with R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett is looked upon as the 3rd pick in this draft. You pair both of those guys together with the energy and the effort that they played with last year, you move that organization forward.
Well, that would mean, what you're suggesting is the result of all this is that Anthony Davis winds up with the Knicks. A lot of the Knicks fans, meanwhile, were not happy when their name came up 3rd last night, and they were all represented in this video by Stephen A. Smith.
Damn! Damn it! Damn it! Typical Knicks, man. I knew it. They'd get close. They'd tease us. And then they wouldn't get it done. Oh! 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 I know the Knicks were denying it. I know the Knicks had everybody believing that if they got the number 1 overall pick, they were going to hold on to Zion. But I'm here to tell you, no matter what they tell anybody, they were thinking about moving that pick for Anthony Davis. They were at least thinking about it. Now New Orleans gets the first damn pick, and now they got both guys. What do the Knicks have? What do the Knicks have?
Okay.